Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry it's been a bit of a while, it's been a bit of a hectic month. I've just started back up at uni as well, so like my free time has just gone like, phew. Yeah, so today I'm just going to do a quick run through what my reads of September were, give you my thoughts on them. I can't believe it's October already, that is really, really scary. I'm still in complete denial that 2021 even happened. I don't like it. Like, stop. Please, take me back. Take me back to January. I want my year back. Okay, so anyway, let's get into the books before I go on to some long rambly intro like I usually do. So the first book I read was Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Just before I talk about the book, I just want to say I really like this edition. It's a vintage classics one. It's really nice to hold. It was really nice to read. The print size is quite nice if you like, kind of, I don't know if you can see there. But I am normally quite, I'm very picky with my classics that I buy because I hate small print. Like if the print's too small in a book, I just won't read it. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this edition. It was, yeah, perfect. We'll definitely be buying more from these. So yeah, Mansfield Park, from what I've kind of seen, it seems to have quite mixed reviews, and I can definitely understand why. I personally did enjoy it, but it took me about 150 pages to really get into it, which, understandably, if you're reading a book, you might not want that. Well, I usually wouldn't, but it's one I needed to read for uni. So yeah, it's basically about a girl called Fanny who she's quite poor, and she ends up living with her aunt's family who are much more wealthy, and it's kind of like quite an interesting. I think it's quite an interesting kind of like way to kind of look at society through this kind of lens. And for the most part, I did enjoy it, especially once it kind of got into like parts 2 and 3. I got quite invested, but again, it took a while for me to get invested because I just found there were so many characters. Like, I mean, I think this is kind of like a thing in Austen's, but there were also so many characters who I just didn't care about, and that's kind of the point. Like, it is a book where you're not really supposed to like a lot of them. But I enjoyed it. Probably not for everyone, and I probably wouldn't recommend it as a first Austen book either, but if you've read a few of Austen's things, you're used to her style, I think it is worth checking out. I would give it 3.5 stars, again, because the first part was painful, and then I loved it. But I can't just ignore those first 150 pages of trauma. Okay, that was probably a bit of a mess in terms of summary, but anyway, moving on. So the next book that I read was Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I've not got that with me, so I might put something here, or I might just not edit this video and just go on a nice little chatty ramble, because why not? So yeah, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I think I remember this from when I read them the first time. The Sea of Monsters, I would say, is definitely the weakest one in the series. It's very much a kind of like bridge book between kind of The Lightning Thief and The Titan's Curse. I understand it's a children's book as well, so it's kind of like I am kind of probably like viewing this as a little bit older, but I just kind of found, like, especially going into it, there was kind of a lot of repeating, and it's like, yeah, we already know this, like, just get to the good bits, please. But I really like seeing more of Clarice. I really love Tyson. Tyson is precious. And again, I'll give that one a 3.5 stars. It's not my favourite in the series, still very enjoyable, and I am very excited to reread The Titan's Curse, because that was one of my favourites in my memory when I read it the first time. Okay, so the next book that I read was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. And yeah, no, I loved this book. I think I read it in like 2-3 days. It was, again, really interesting. It raised some very interesting questions. It kind of gave some very kind of interesting takes on kind of subtle elements of racism. And one of the criticisms I've seen it kind of get when I was like looking, when I was kind of like putting my rating on the storybook. Why do I call it storybook? It's storygraph. On the storygraph was I saw like kind of some people saying they felt the characters were kind of not very well fleshed out, but personally I feel like that's kind of the point, because I feel like they're all kind of stock characters so that you can kind of recognize the people around you in them, but also they have enough personality to be themselves, so they're not completely necessarily unique and interesting, because then you kind of have the room to identify them with people who you know who are unique and interesting. But maybe that's just my take. It's weird because it's not the kind of book I would normally like. Well, it's not necessarily not the kind of book I'd normally like. It's not the kind of book I would normally be drawn to. I remember kind of reading the first chapter and I was like, eh. And then I really got into it and I loved it. So I think that's just kind of a testament to how good it actually is, because, as I say, it's not something I normally enjoyed and it's now one of my favourite books. So, not normally enjoyed. It's not something I would normally read and now it's one of my favourite books. But yeah, no, I really liked it. Would highly recommend. It's quite an easy read. It's quite a light read. Although, as I say, it does bring up like kind of interesting themes. The actual narrative style itself, it's very easy just to kind of, it's a real page turner. And yeah, no, it even managed to keep my tiny little attention span brain engaged for a long time. So yeah, definitely recommend that. I'll give that a very solid 4.5 stars. Okay, so the next book on the list was my mission to finish before uni started, and that is The Dragon Republic by Rebecca Kuang. So yeah, I love the series. This is definitely my new favourite fantasy series. Again, just before as always with this series, if you do want to read it, please check the trigger warnings. It is a lot. But again, this is kind of a bit of a bridge book, but it is a very good bridge book. It's big, but it fits so much in it. Like, there's so much political development, there's so much character development, and you kind of I saw more of the characters who I've missed, and I really liked it. Again, my only criticism of it, and this is more of a personal thing rather than a problem, is it goes from 0 to 100 very, very, very quickly. And I feel like that's kind of the point. It's probably a stylistic choice because it is set during a war, and obviously war, you don't get much time to have a break. But I found as a reading experience, I kind of became increasingly desensitized to what was going on, because it was just constantly kind of like at like 1995. It didn't really have much room to go up, if that makes sense. So I found myself kind of becoming increasingly desensitized to what was going on. And also just kind of like, I won't go as far as not caring, but like towards the end, like when things were happening, I was just kind of like, so, you know, like this has been going on for the whole book. Like, you know, there's no kind of like real shock value because you're always expecting something. Again, I feel like it's a stylistic choice, but for me personally, it's not my, I like having like room to kind of go and be surprised and kind of go and be, yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I've explained that terribly, but yeah, but no, a very, very, very enjoyable read. Again, a very solid 4.5 stars. Really, really loved it. It's weird. I feel like the writing in this has really like a huge step up as well. But yeah, no, yeah, highly recommend. Just check the trigger warnings. And while we're on the topic of the Poppy War trilogy, the last book I read this month was The Burning God, which is the last book in the trilogy, and is also the only hardback that I own from the series, and it's gonna really annoy me because, I mean, look at it. But it's absolutely beautiful. I love the covers on these. So, The Burning God, I'm not sure if this or the Poppy War is my favourite. The Poppy War is kind of beautiful. Like, you could reread the Poppy War as like a standalone novel quite easily, but this one, oh, I loved it. So basically, again, I found this one the pacing kind of for me was more to my tastes. Maybe arguably a bit slow in the beginning, but I also feel like it, like after reading the whole book, it made sense and it worked really nicely. And yeah, no, this book broke me. I cried. I cried a lot. I feel like that's kind of like quite a general theme. with people who've read the series. So yeah, thanks for the trauma. But yeah, no, absolutely phenomenal. I won't go into talk about it too much because, you know, I don't want to give any spoilers to anyone who wants to read it, but if you're interested, I will probably do a review of the whole series at some point, and when I do it, I will link it down below in the description somewhere. Or I might not. I might just forget and drop off the face of the earth, but who knows. But yeah, no, this was definitely a very, very, very strong finish to the series. Some people, again, I've seen kind of like criticising the ending, but I personally think it was the only way it could end, like, and actually, like, yeah, and actually fit, because I suppose the depressing thing is, like life, sometimes the satisfying endings aren't the endings we get. And in a series that is such a brutal depiction of everything, I feel like you can't just suddenly be like, you know, and here's this really, like, they all skip off into flowers and fields and just, yay. Yeah, no, I thought the ending was really good. So, if you are kind of like, because I am always very paranoid about endings, I'm always just kind of there like, please don't let me down in the last 50 pages. So yeah, no, I would definitely say it's definitely worth reading to the end for. Yeah, and I feel like I've just started rambling, so I am going to wrap things up here. If you want to comment down below and let me know what you guys have been reading over September, or even just what you're planning to read this month, that would be absolutely amazing. I love knowing what you guys are getting up to. But in the meantime, stay safe, and I will see you again at some point. Probably. Maybe. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. Bye.